providing commentary on proceedings. Thank you, Margaret. Please note this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed, and once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. And it's worth remembering, Chair, as well, that members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Thank you very much. So we'll just rattle through the agenda. Appointment of substitutes.
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Denham for Councillor Gregson and Councillor Kinnersley for Councillor Collier. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest? That's marvellous. No public participation? And then I'll just go through the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll go through these page by page. Any comments, please make them when I hit the relevant page, please. So, page 1, nothing. Page 2, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, regarding point 39 and in relation to youth provision spending, particularly in Warndon, I need to issue a correction. In our last meeting of PEG Committee, I gave a statistic regarding the cost of repairing damage caused by antisocial behaviour at the hubs operated by WCT. I believed I got that number during a face-to-face meeting with staff from WCT. However, I have been subsequently contacted by outgoing head of the Trust, John Newey, who says that figure is incorrect. It remains my view that if we want to tackle antisocial behaviour, it is better to prevent than to simply repair the damage. And while the statistic I gave may be in doubt, I stand by my point that we must improve youth services in Warndon.
Thank you, Jill. Anybody else? No. Page 3. No. Thank you very much. And finally, page 4. Okay, that's great. Thanks, everybody. Right. On to the next item of the agenda then, which is the proposed committee scorecard for 25-26. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Chair. Starting from the top, there is just some updates in terms of milestones attached to 25-26, and then moving down, I've got an amendment. So where we've got let me just find it. Sorry, removed. There are 2 projects in that removed section: the communities and skills and the heritage and riverside destinations. Those are actually now carrying over until 25-26. So those 2 projects will remain on the scorecard, and we will populate them with milestones as appropriate. They're not, I think we were slightly premature in our desire to see them completed, if I can put it that way. And then further down, you'll see that property enhancement comes off because we're having a last report today on that, and then the rest of the report is as was. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
We'll start with Jenny and then Jill.
Thank you, Chair. 2 questions. Firstly, the economic development strategy has been put back to heaven knows when. Can you give a time frame for that, please?
What I'll give you, I won't give you an exact time frame. What I will say is that we've been rather overtaken by events, and we seem to be continually being overtaken by events in terms of the government agenda. The government have published a growth strategy So it is my proposal that we replace what would have been an economic development plan with something that is more coherent with the Labour government's growth strategy. And in terms of where we sit at the moment, I also believe it would be better developed across the 3 South Worcestershire district councils. It would I think, be a bit strange for us to go off in isolation and produce something. So I have spoken to Vic about a joint plan, and I'll come back to members when I've got more detail. Thank you.
That's a bit concerning. Obviously, at some point, we will become a unitary authority of some kind.
Yeah.
But it just effectively, we can just scrap that then. It says to be confirmed, but it's actually been written off.
I think an economic strategy per se, I would agree in terms of the title of the document, yes, but I think we need to replace it with something else.
Second question related to the total number of dwellings granted permission as targets. And you've put no figures in for either 24-25 or 25-26, which suggests a lack of ambition. Could you clarify that, please?
It says to be confirmed rather than nil. So I don't have the detail. I can go away and get it, but I'm just on the basis that it's to be confirmed. I'm assuming we're waiting for an update on the current trajectory. But I will check and come back to you. I don't know if Sian, you can add anything. No.
Only to say, obviously, there's a development plan review and being undertaken at this very moment, and a lot of the evidence supporting that review has been updated. So we will be able to put some figures in that do reflect our ambition. But again, possibly there's a South Worcestershire point that a lot of the delivery is happening outside of our boundaries as well.
Alex. Oh, sorry. Jill first and then Alex. I'm sorry, Alex.
Thank you, Chair. So on the middle section, proposed new and revised projects about the play plan projects. So I was just wondering, is it possible to have a complete list of these? And I'm obviously very interested in the Cotswold Way one in particular, which isn't actually named. But it is, I think, a high priority project because it's about to start in a few weeks, I think. So that was really my question.
At the next scheduled meeting of PED will be a comprehensive update on delivery on the play plan. Members will recall that every year certain projects within the play plan are the priorities for that year. And then when our officer comes to your next meeting, they will present the delivery on those projects, which will include ones you've referred to.
Thank you. Alex.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a comment and a question, if that's okay. Under the first part of the report, current projects and activities, talks about UK SPF and decisions being made in 25-26. As members will be aware, we have in St Clement Ward, Comer Hall Gardens, which is awaiting funding, and I just wanted to flag up that it is in a very dire state. I was there recently with an ivy is coming in through the windows, so I just wanted to keep in people's minds the state of Comer Hall Gardens in respect to those funding decisions. My second question is around the annual KPIs, where it talks about number of UK SPF business support grants awarded. I appreciate, I'm new to this committee, that maybe these key KPIs have been in use for a while, but it seems quite a coarse KPI in terms of what are those grants actually delivering. I don't know if there's any way of looking at kind of the benefit derived from those business support grants when leveraged funding or jobs created, for example. Thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. These are crude sort of input numbers, really. We are going to bring back an evaluation in terms of what benefits have been derived.
Jabba.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A number of points. First of all, I just want to clarify something you said at the start in response to Councillor Barnes's query. Obviously, the removal of the economic development plan doesn't mean that our priority isn't economic development. So just a clarification, make sure that economic development is a top priority for us. It's just going to be reformatted in a different version. We haven't got rid of that. That's the first point. Secondly, I'd like to in terms of the play plan, I'd just like to commend actually what an excellent play plan that we had produced and what we're delivering on it, and particularly around the pump track that was at Barton Hall. It's been enjoyed by thousands of people since today, and it's been a huge success. So much so that obviously other areas are copying it now. We've got one in Malvern planned, Upton and Severn, and other areas, and also within the city, obviously. And I just want to put a case forward for obviously been campaigning over the last couple of months in Warndon and Rainbow Hill, and there's an urgent need there, for an order of a similar facility. So whether we can get that added in the play priority. Thirdly, there's a couple of things I think that are missing off this report. Thirdly and fourthly, one, I think the cultural compact. I think that should be a key priority here in this thing, because actually it's a short-term project that we can measure against, and it's a key project that delivers alongside the Scala. So I think it's a key for us to kind of put it in there. And fourthly, around the Victorian Fair, I think that's another key delivery measure that we have within the city. It's a premier event that showcases Worcester to the whole of the UK, and it should be something that we should be monitoring.
Thanks, Trevor. Dave?
Thank you. Just through your chair, a few points. So you'll be aware of the priorities we gave to the UK SPF investment around skills, around business support. So yes, economic development is clearly and remains a priority for us, not to mention the ongoing work with Shrub Hill and the new employment space there. So yes, absolutely a priority. With regard to the cultural compact, I think that is something we could add on to track progress. My only concern with adding, if members wish, we can put the Victorian Fair on the list, but that is really treated as business as usual, in the same way that the Worcester Show is business as usual. So that's why it would not normally appear as a project. It's ongoing business activity, or council activity rather. But I'm happy if people want it added, then we can add it.
Did you want to come in on cultural compact?
Yeah, just to respond on the cultural compact, members will be aware that we're awaiting a decision on the Arts Council bid submission that we made with other organisations in the city for the Place Partnership funding. And our bid was for £800,000 of Arts Council funding matched by other sources. So we are waiting an outcome, some news on that this month actually. If we are successful in any terms and there's a funding, then there's a project, and then that project would be an excellent candidate for this scorecard. And I'm grateful for you raising it, because when we brought the report to actually the P&R committee, I couldn't believe how I looked at it, it was back in September, how quickly that's gone by. We did say at that meeting that that would be something that PED would have overview of if we get the money awarded. So by the time we next meet as a committee, we will know if we've got the money and what the shape of the project is.
Thank you, Sian. Louis, then Edward.
Thank you. One of the projects to be removed is City Centre Transport Action Plan. And it's really just a question, is this really completed? I'm concerned because obviously, as far as I'm aware, we haven't really had much of a contact from the County Council on this issue, and I'm wondering whether this is premature to be taking off our action plan.
Okay, we'll leave it on. That's code for me saying I agree.
Thank you. And then Edward.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, first of all, just to echo the concern about the lack of action on transport from the County Council, I think it's a shame if this disappears from the report just because the county isn't taking actions that perhaps they were signed on to. I wanted to ask a technical question following on from that, if I may, which was to do with the way the numbers are presented for visitors to city museums and participation in activity learning at the city museums. Would I be correct to assume that those two numbers are essentially counting, like the 7,000 is within the 50,000? Would that be a correct assumption, that those two numbers are counted together, or are they entirely separate groups of people? I have got a follow-on question after that, but I feel like I've probably given you a little bit of a head scratcher.
You, Chair. It would look obvious that one is a subset of the other, but as I don't know, I'll go away and find out.
I'd really appreciate that, thank you.
Okay.
It's just really feeding my curiosity. The other thing I wanted to ask, I don't think it's laid out explicitly in this report on city centre football, but in previous reports that we've seen, or that I've certainly seen, the footfall in the city centre seems to have held up or actually increased over time and has remained very healthy, which is very much at odds with the discourse I see online, where I keep hearing about how Worcester city centre is in decline, and in complete contravention of the evidence that I've seen here. I just wanted to ask, would I be correct in assuming that the numbers are more or less, as I remember last having seen them, holding steady, or has there been some drastic change I wasn't told about? Thank you.
Yeah, we have a new system for counting footfall in the city centre, which is more accurate than the previous system we were using. And yes, it is. We have increasing footfall in the city centre and people staying longer in the city centre also. And we have the evidence to prove that. So, yeah, it is definitely holding and actually on the up.
May I ask one very cheeky follow-up question on that? I mean, I think it's to be welcomed that people are actually staying longer in the city, and I mean, why wouldn't they? I've been to various West Midlands cities recently, and I am entirely unbiased, but I think we have one of the best ones. Do we have any data about visitor spend in the local economy at all, and is that something we could capture?
Yes, I'm sure we could. Yeah, we can pull something together for you to show the footfall, the dwell time and the increased spend.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. We've then got Lynn and then another contribution from Jim.
Thank you, Ash. A number of the things I wanted to say have been said, so I agree. It is really important that we keep the city centre transport action plan on there, even if, you know, I know we're very limited in what we can deliver as the City Council, but there are some recommendations for us, and we absolutely should not lose sight of it. We need to keep the pressure on with the Highways Authority. And I mean, the Victorian Fair, it's kind of, there's sort of two angles to that, isn't there? One is, you know, it is a very significant project, and the planning and delivery of that, just because it's an annual project, we shouldn't lose sight of the scale of that in order to plan and deliver it. And the other is, I mean, will it be a subset within the city centre footfall? Because I think, you know, to capture that separately is important. And then, which is also an aspect of the other bit I wanted to raise, which is about tourism. So am I right in thinking that the way of capturing data that we have on the high street or in the city centre now is actually about tracking phones, and that we can tell who's a visitor and who's local from that? Because I think, you know, numbers of out of town visitors and a measure of the importance of tourism, because it is really important to the city, and it would be good to have some measures to demonstrate that.
Yeah, the new system is far more sophisticated, and it does track mobile phones, so it will track individuals that are coming from outside of the city and regular individuals from inside of the city. So yeah, we can break it down into those, the people that are coming from, the increasing numbers coming from outside and where they're coming from. It's a much more sophisticated way of counting, so we can break it down into a number of ways to highlight where people are coming from, how long they're coming for, if there are particular events that are having an impact on people attending. Yeah, we can break those reports down if it's useful for the committee.
Before you make your contribution, can I just ask if members would feel that an update on tourism would be useful for this committee? Okay, then can we bear that in mind? Zoe, thank you.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, right. I am so used to having my thunder taken by everybody
That's
else,
okay.
that at least
That's okay, Chair. I'm fine. Thank you.
if I make a good suggestion, I want it heard. Thank you. Jill and then Jenny.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to say how lovely it is that the chicken shop is opened up and you can walk down. It's going to be great. I mean, there's going to be more painting, I think, another mural. Is there an opening in April or something? 17th?
Official opening.
Yeah. Well, that'll be good. Anyway.
There will be a celebration event. The project isn't finished yet. We are still securing some of the interior condition of the arches. So we really want to celebrate at the right time. But absolutely, there's been an awful lot of love for the absence of a building. It's been interesting.
Will we be inviting Shane?
Like others, I'm very keen that the Christmas fair remains strongly on our agenda, as well as the Worcester Show, which has been drawing in crowds every year. Now, we lost Light Night this year, which I think is a big shame, especially winter activity, bringing the joy of families into the city was really great. Now, we had International Women's Day this weekend at the Guildhall, which was a new draw, so maybe we can find new ways that maybe don't cost so much, but actually involve the community in a slightly different way. If we can't have things like nightlife, we really need both, but I think we're going in the right direction by adding in new stuff as well.
Thank you, Jenny. Anybody else for anything else? No? Right then, can we take the recommendation then that we approve the proposed content of the committee performance scorecard for 2025-26? All those in favour?
As amended, yeah.
As amended, yes. Thank you, Lynn. Any against? No, and no abstentions either, I take it. That's great. Thank you very much. On to the next item then, the Future High Street Fund Intervention for Property Enhancement Scheme. This is the wrap-up report for that.
So this gives the report and gives details of how the grant scheme has run. We have had a slight underspend on the programme, and we have asked officers in government if we can transfer any underspend to the other Future High Streets programmes, so Scala and Corn Exchange. But the aim of the scheme, it was to centred around Angel Street and the Cross, and it was to improve retail and residential and commercial space, to bring them back into use and to make them look more attractive in that area. Some of it was a grant programme, so we provided part of the grant, and then the businesses came forward with the rest of it. So it was match funded by the organisations around the buildings. We had a budget of £500,000. Which was a reasonable budget. We've made 15 premises in total have come forward and received grants. We had 2 that were a little slower in getting planning permission and consent, which is why this report has been delayed until now, but they are now both moving. They all have planning permission, and the capital programme has started work on those 2 projects. It's been quite a successful programme. It's made an obvious difference if you walk around that area. It has made a significant difference to the feel of the area, and bringing those things back into use. The footfall in the area is much better, and it's a much more attractive space now. There are a range of buildings that have been refurbished. A couple of them were on the heritage at risk, register, that we are now working to get those removed from that register, having improved those properties and those spaces now, so which is good news for the project in general. We are measuring the project on jobs created with some of those commercial spaces. We have a period of time to count those jobs created, so we have some of them now, and there will be further ones in the future, and we're working with the businesses to keep a record of those jobs that are appearing in those commercial units now. The residential space, we've had over 1,000 metres squared of residential space that has been brought back into use, and we now have tenants in those properties and people living within that residential area now. As you will see towards the end of the report, we have photographs and details of the actual properties that have been enhanced. You'll see for yourself the sort of spend that we've made on those properties and what they look like before and what they look like now, and the obvious difference in all of those. I think it's been quite a significant project and has been very successful for us. We did carry it on into UK SPF to fund other areas of the city based on the success of this programme. Are there any questions? Is there anything anybody would like to ask?
Thank you, Zoe. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to add.
Yeah.
Through you, Chair, just to add, the last piece of the jigsaw will be the repaving of the Scala side of the street. That's been delayed by, well, delay's the wrong word. That will take place once the Scala works are complete. There's no point in putting new paving down and then turning it into a building site for 18 months. So once the Scala works are complete, then the highways works will come back and we'll finish off the paving to the rest of the standard in the city centre. I think that will then just put the sort of finishing touch to the quality of the public space in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, David. If I may, just before opening up for questions, I took the opportunity to visit a couple of the properties the year before last as work was going on. And it was obvious then the amount of interest that the property owners had in developing their properties. And I think they were incredibly happy with the council's involvement in helping them do the work as well. So I just wanted to say that I think the work has been worthwhile. We can walk down Angel Street now and it does look a lot better than it used to. Particularly for those of you who remember the old BSM school and the jewellers opposite it, where that was just so rotten and falling down. And now it looks just absolutely wonderful. I was there yesterday afternoon. So I just wanted to say that. So without further ado, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Chair. I really welcome this report, and I think anyone that walks down Angel Street will instantly notice the difference. I know Louis is a big fan of living over the shop, and because of that, I wanted to make some references to the EPCs of the residential properties. So I note that flat 1A has a D rating. There's no EPC on 5 Angel Street that I could see on the National Register. 11 Angel Street, again, no EPC. And again, no EPC on 24, 25, The Cross. I note some of these rents are not cheap rents. I wondered what the state of that was, and if there is a plan to make sure that's delivered, please. Thank you.
The EPC ratings, we can follow that up, yeah. We are keeping track and keeping in touch with the landlords. So we will, throughout the time of our relationship with those landlords, we will endeavour to get those EPC ratings to a standard that we would like to see them. So yes, we will continue that.
Thank you, Chair. So I note that this government is asking by the next decade that all properties have a C rating. So I wonder if there's a bit of underspend that could be something that could be looked at to get those U values up to future-proof those. Thank you.
We can certainly review that and see what our options are. Some of them, because they are heritage buildings, we'll only get them so far. But yes, we can certainly look at that.
So I just wanted to be clear, I think in relation to the underspend, there are a number of calls on that in terms of the Future High Streets Fund programme. So we would need to think carefully about the implications of that in terms of having considered this programme is closed. If we reopen that with the owners as well, that would be a slightly different process. So I think we'd need to bring that back if we were going to.
Thank you, Sean. Tor, and then Lynn.
To that conversation, if I may, in that if there isn't an EPC certificate, I mean, what's in our papers may be different to, not everything may be in these papers, but there is a minimum level for being safe to rent out to a tenant currently. So, you know, that's potentially an issue for our housing department, is it, to private sector housing to check on?
Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, this is what was on the National EPC register, not that was in here. So thank you.
So it does look like it's a housing thing that we need to talk to. Yeah, thank you, Zoe. Tor.
Thank you, Chair. This is a good report, and you know it's great to have all the pictures in there. I've had lots of residents already commenting how much nicer it looks round Angel Place. In fact, I think most of the comments are it looks less dodgy now, which is good progress. Mine is more of a comment than a question because there's quite a little that we can do about this as City Council, but I wish there was something that we could do about it, which is the cost of the rent for some of these properties. There's one-bedroom flats on here that are listed as £900 a month. If you're on minimum wage and you're taking your take-home per month, that's about half of your take-home per month. I get that these are city centre properties, but gosh, I wish there was something we could do to bring the rent down. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tor. Edward?
Just want to join in on that particular bit of the conversation, because I think you know, it is a shame really that rent and housing costs are so high, and really the only way to get on top of that is with more development, with more housing, to try and bring the overall cost down for the consumer. And that's going to depend on developments both within but also around the outside and external to the city as well. But I think that in this development we're doing our bit and making sure that those spaces which we can create within the city are being created. So I think it's to be welcomed, though I tend to agree the cost can be a little bit dear at times. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other points they'd like to make, questions? Lynn?
Sorry, it was just a query, because in paragraph 3.8, it refers to commercial premises and the kind of confidence in the commercial market, but it refers to 2022 report from Dillons. Is that correct, or have we got anything more up to date? Is that a typo, or that is the report that's being referred to?
That was the report that we used at the beginning of the programme, at the beginning of the project. So we were using the evidence from that report to identify if it had an impact, if what we were doing would have an impact on that take-up of commercial properties in the area. So that was our baseline. Obviously it should be reviewed now we've completed our projects, but yeah, that's where we started from.
Thank you, everybody. If there aren't any further points or questions, are we happy to go with the flow and note the content of this report, the funding that has been committed to the grant scheme? Sorry, Jabba.
There we go. Can I commend you on what an excellent scheme that has been and has improved, obviously, the area in light of all the other comments that have been made. There are other areas. I know my colleague Richard Udall keeps on about St John's, and I keep banging on about Lowesmore being a key concern in terms of the dilapidated properties that are on there. So any new schemes that the government comes thinks of, please do bear those in mind. Thank you.
So I take your point on board, Jabba. One of the things that we were hoping to get out of the economic development strategy, now the newly named growth strategy, was the ability to concentrate on those other areas, so St John's, Lowersmoor, and the other retail areas within the city. So hopefully we can fulfil that aspiration. So hopefully that helps. Louis.
Yes, just building on what Councillor Riaz and Councillor Cooper have said, I think it is really quite important that we use this as a sort of a benchmark of a successful project and to actually roll this out in other areas. And I think it'd be great to see that in other places like St John's and so on. But also picking up from what Hannah was saying earlier about the EPC certificates, because when we're giving grants out and we're supporting businesses and developers and property owners to develop the sites, I think it probably was something that was missed in our initial scoping to make sure that EPC ratings are actually part of the programme. So if we do any future projects, maybe we could try to tie in EPC as part of the targets within that future scheme. So thank you.
I agree with this has been a very successful project, more successful than I thought it might have been when it started, because we've tried to do similar things elsewhere and found it very difficult. But I think the scale of the investment helped in this case. But I must say at this point, this was as a result of external funding, and so whilst absolutely I would love to continue to do this sort of thing, we are more than ever now reliant upon funding opportunities from outside the council. So an ambitious growth plan would be fantastic. More of the property enhancement programmes, improvements to public realm, investment and commercial opportunities. I agree with all of those, but we are going to be reliant upon winning external funding. We have a very, very good track record. We've now got the full set with Levelling Up, Future High Streets Fund, Town Fund, Cultural Development Fund. So we have a successful track record, but we do need to be reliant upon those opportunities to come in future. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for that bringing us back down to reality. Any further comments? Points? No, thank you very much then. Is committee happy to note the contents of the report, the funding that has been committed to the grant scheme, and that officers will be seeking approval to move the limited underspend into the main budget for the Scala Call Exchange delivery? No abstentions, no nays. Brilliant, thank you very much. At this juncture then, we can close the meeting. It is 20 to 8. We have a briefing at 8 o'clock on the Worcestershire Growth Hub. This is something that I thought members might be interested in, so I hope you can hang around for it, but I perfectly understand if you'd prefer to go home and watch it on Teams. So thank you very much, everybody.